Tonight is a very special time. It's Lag Baomer in the parsha of also this week, Parshas Emor. We're discussing. It's called Parshas HaMoadim, the parsha that deals with all of the Yomim Tovim. It's all packed together over here, and we talk. One of the Moadim that's discussed and the events is it talks about counting Sfira. That we count Sfira, and the Lag Baomer is a very special time over here. Should just be pointed out before we discuss and go into anything at all. You have to be very careful once it gets closer to nighttime tonight not to say Lag Baomer, because if you say Lag Baomer, it could be that you're going to fulfill your obligation of Sira, and then you're going to lose out on a bracha. So that is something to be careful with, just a halachic public service announcement. Questions on it?
So if you say tonight is Lag Baomer,
Tonight's Lag Baomer, yes.
yeah, but means if you were to say you can't. Lag Baomer doesn't mean anything.
That's right. It's still a shiloh. The post may talk about it.
They talk about it. At the end of the day, it comes out. It's not.
Be careful. Just be careful. All right? You don't want to play with fire. So we already put out 5 shiurim exactly on why the time of Lag Baomer is a time to rejoice. It's a time of happiness. Assuming that we have time, we'll recap some of those other answers at the end in short, but you will not get the full picture. But they're up there. I put them up. So what exactly is Lag Baomer? Some of the customs. What's going on over here? So just to start over here, the Rama in Siman Tov Sadi Gimel says, "Umar ben bo ksas simcha ve'inoim ben bo tachnun," that we increase slightly our happiness and we don't say tachnun in Lag Baomer. So we already see that from the time of the Rama, who's really coming from Maharil, that already Lag Baomer was something that was practiced in some way, shape, or form. Now, what is this idea over here? Comes along the Aruch Hashulchan over there in Ozayin, and he says this Yom is Ksas Yom Tov. It's almost like a Yom Tov. And also Mincha before, and we call it Hilulā de Rashbi. Rashbi stands for Rebbi Shimon Bar Yochai or Ben Yochai. The Hilulā is like the wedding. So the obvious question is, what's that about? It's a wedding? No one got married over here. All right. So now we have in Eretz Yisrael, says the Aruch Hashulchan, that what happens is that we increase our davening that we do, and we light an air as well on the kever, on the grave of Rebbi Shimon Bar Yochai. Aruch Hashulchan brings this, correct? He
lived in Europe, right?
Yes, correct. Now, says the Aruch Hashulchan, and this is the key line, "V'oimrim shenestalik b'yoyim zeh." They say that Rebbi Shimon Bar Yochai died on this day. Okay, we'll come back to that. V'gam yotza mehma'ara b'yoyim zeh, and he also came out of a cave on this day. Wait, what's going on? Cave, death, 2 reasons over here. We see that according to the Aruch Hashulchan, there are 2 reasons for Lag Baomer. There are really much more. One is the death of Rebbi Shimon Bar Yochai, and the other one is the coming out of the cave. That's what we see from this. Now, let's backtrack over here, the cave. Where is the sugyas of Rebbi Shimon Bar Yochai in Shas?
Yavamas?
No, Shabbos, what daf?
Lamed Gimel.
That's right, Lamed Gimel. Coincidence?
I think not.
No such thing as coincidence. No way, Jose comes along the Gemara over there and explains that Rebbi Shimon Bar Yochai, his life was in danger. And in order to be saved, he went with his son, Rebbi Elazar, and he went in a cave. And the Gemara says, Ozlu Tashu b'marosa, they went and they hid in a cave, V'srachish Nisa. A miracle happened, Ivro leichur b'oveina demaya. There was a carob tree that miraculously sprouted, and there was water that was available for them. The obvious question is, how do you make Kiddush? So what happened was that they would, Rashi explains, remove their clothing and they would completely be submerged in the sand over there and they'd be covered in the sand. Why do they do that? Because when you wear clothing for many years straight and you don't have a change of clothing, your clothing gets worn out. But if you don't wear it, then it won't get worn out as fast. Wear and tear. Coolly, it's like a, right? Like a vehicle to have. If you're going to drive a car for 5 years, 500,000 miles, it's going to wear out a lot more than if you're just going to drive 50,000 miles. Fine. Kula Yoma Garci, they would learn day and night. They would learn Torah. Izvo Tracy, Shani Bimarosum. Osiliau. So they sat there, they sat there for 12 years in the cave. They learned there for 12 years. Eliyahu Hanavi came and said, you could come out of the cave. Coast is clear, you're good. And then they came out. So it was really a total of 13 years that they were there. Tracer, excuse me, not 12 years. 13 years that they were there. 12 and then a month and then another year. Fine. It's 13 years total. The Aruch Hashulchan is pointing out that they finally came out of the cave on the 13th of, on the 33rd, Lag Baomer. They came out on the 33rd of the Sfira, Lag Baomer. Now we have to just backtrack over here. We know that we have a Gemara in Yevamos and Samach Beis that teaches us that Rebbi Akiva had 24,000 Talmidim and they all died. All these students died in between Pesach and Shevuos. And then Rebbi Akiva went and he taught another 5 Talmidim. One of the Talmidim was Rebbi Shimon Star, Rebbi Shimon in Shas, Rebbi Shimon Bar Yochai. One of the Talmidim of Rebbi Akiva is Rebbi Shimon Bar Yochai. So that's why there's a theme of Rebbi Akiva, Rebbi Shimon Bar Yochai. If you have more time, I'm going to recap the other reasons for Lag Baomer very briefly. And how Rebbi Akiva, even Lag Baomer, is just for Rebbi Akiva, nothing to do with Rebbi Shimon Bar Yochai, for many reasons.
What was it? He came out of Lag Baomer fully, or didn't he come out one time? He
Fully.
came out after 12 years.
When he was done.
And the X-ray vision.
Correct. So the full coming out was after 13 years.
Okay.
Lag Baomer. So the obvious question over here is, when someone dies, is that a happy time or a sad time?
Technically, it's a sad time.
Technically? What do you mean technically? It is a sad time. Person's yursit, right? A year later, you commemorate it. When you're having the yursit, is that a happy time or a sad time?
Sad.
Sad. Not a trick question. Why on earth this is called hילולא Rashbi? This is called the wedding of Rebbi Shimon Bar Yochai. This is the day of death that we're commemorating. What's happy about this? Everyone's singing along. Bar Yochai, Amar Rebbi Akiva, Amar Rebbi Akiva. Everyone's going pumped up and everyone's happy. Meron, it's going to be Meron already in a couple hours. It's going to be bouncing. Just give him a couple more hours to come in. I remember when I was in Eretz Yisrael to Meron. Now it's only, what time is it over here? It's almost 10 o'clock, let's say. So the 7 hours at 5 o'clock. I remember we came there, we got there 7 o'clock, nothing going on. All the magic happens once it starts getting dark. And the later you go, the crazier it gets. They're there for hours, Meron. Tens of thousands of people. Who knows? There might be hundreds of thousands. It's a whole to-do, Meron. Wild bleachers and
That's where he's buried.
yeah, that's where he's buried. So what exactly is the happiness? This is when he died over here. What's the happiness? There's an idea like this. Reb Tzadok HaKohen Melublin explains in his Sefer Pri Chadash and Vayikra and Lag Baomer Sima Shas Ois Aleph. Basically explains Rebbi Shimon Bar Yochai died on this day. His Rebbi Akiva is the yursit of Torah Shabbal Peh. He's the foundation of the oral Torah, like the Ari discusses in his Kitzvei Arizah. And the Medrash says in the Bamidbar Rabba and Yudalid, Bali Asufos, the people who gather. When is it going to be planted in a person, the Torah? When the owners are gathering it. What does this mean over here? It means over here like this. Rebbi Shimon Bar Yochai was a student of Rebbi Akiva, yeah? And when he passed, all of the people in the generation, they were able to now receive his Torah better than before.
Thank you.
When a righteous person passes, Talmid Chacham, his Torah gets disseminated more and gets taught more and spread more after he passes away. It's an interesting concept and idea, but it's a reality over here. So therefore, during this time of Lag Baomer, this is an auspicious time when we are able to merit according to our level and understanding and strength to grasp Torah ideas, specifically Torah Shabbal Peh and even the Torah from Rebbi Shimon Bar Yochai, because Rebbi Akiva is all about the oral Torah. He transferred it, and those 5 Talmidim literally transferred the whole thing. So we see that this time of Lag Baomer is a time when we're able to merit grasping Torah and understanding it. That's the idea over here. Now, the Pri Chadash is a kasha. Lag Baomer is a happy time. The Shulchan Aruch says that on Lag Baomer, the students, all of those 24,000 Talmidim Rebbi Akiva, they stopped dying. Yes, the Pri Chadash. That's a happy time. They stopped dying because they were dead. There's no other Talmidim left. How do you answer that question? So you know what the Pri Chadash answers? Over there in Tuf Sadi Gim, if I'm not mistaken, Sivkot and Zayin, he says, "After it's possible." You know what the simcha is? The simcha is that Rebbi Akiva went along and he taught 5 more Talmidim. What? 24,000 dead, 5 new? That's happiness?
Keep hope alive.
You don't need to be an accountant to figure that one out. Yeah, he kept going. All the Torahs, wow, what a chizuk. And he kept going and he didn't give up. 24,000 dead, 5 alive, we're rejoicing. 23,995 were down. So what are we? How could we reconcile this? We're not rejoicing the quantity over here, the amount of numbers. What we are celebrating over here is Moisri Torah. Now we had the Messiah. These 5 Talmidim were individuals, were means to an end essentially, were assets, and people who transferred literally the entire Torah Shebaal Peh, the whole oral Torah to the next generation. Therefore, granted, yes, we're mourning. But over here, we have to realize that it's a special situation over here. Because these 5 individuals, one of whom was Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai, is the individual who transferred all the Torah, the individuals who transferred the whole Torah. So therefore, on Lag Baomer, we're able to merit tapping into that Torah again. So now this is the idea over here. This is the idea. So then why are we celebrating the day that Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai died? Yeah. We came out from the cave. So that's how we could explain, even though Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai died, which is a sad time, nevertheless, we are celebrating and rejoicing that now we got the Torah that was able to be transferred to the next generation. That's the idea over here. What does it have to do with the cave? So comes along the Aruch Hashulchan and he says, it has to do with another Gemara. The Gemara over there says that there was a story with Rabbi Pinchas ben Yair when he heard that Rebbi Shimon Bar Yochai came out of the cave. Gemara says he heard and he went to greet him. And he met him at the bathhouse. And he saw that Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai Chazar dahavi beipile. He saw Rashi explains that he had cracks in his skin because of all the sand and from all the years. Havi kabachi. Rabbi Pinchas ben Yair started crying. Because natru dimayeinai. Because he was tearing. And he came along and he said, "Oh, Marloi, woe to me that I saw you like this." Rebbi Shimon Bar Yochai responded, "Ashrecha, shri yisani b'kach." It's fortunate, it's a good thing that you saw me like this. Shalamaloi loyri yisani b'kach le'matzasa b'kach. Timi ikaro ki havi makshi Rashbi kushavi mafarik Rebbi Shimon Bar Yochai. Used to be when Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai would pose a question, Rabbi Pinchas ben Yair would provide 12 answers to the question. Think about that. You know, I'm spending time now, a tremendous amount of effort preparing the Yishurim on Yeshua. Sometimes, just like I'm going to put up now soon, 8 reasons why the Jews specifically needed to get Mila before going into Israel, right before. They literally did a couple of days before. 8 reasons. That's after researching the topic thoroughly. But to have always 12 questions readily available, that takes a lot of wisdom. It takes a lot of amelis b'tayim. That's what he had. 12 answers to every single question. You know what happened? After Rebbi Shimon Bar Yochai came out of the cave over here, and Rebbi Shimon and Rebbi Pinchas ben Yair would ask one question, Rebbi Shimon Bar Yochai would have 24 answers. So you see that the tables turned over here. It shifted over here. So we see that when Rebbi Pinchas ben Yair saw over here the pain that Rebbi Shimon Bar Yochai went through in the cave, to the extent that he literally had cracks in his body, And immediately he said, oh, woe to me, I saw you like this. But immediately he said, no, on the contrary. In other words, all of it was worthwhile over here. Because since I was in the cave and I had all these yisurim, these forms of afflictions and difficulties and pains, that's why I was able to merit the high level that I reached. Because before Rebbi Shimon Bar Yochai went in the cave, remember, 12 answers he always had, but now the tables turned. He didn't have any answers, and Rebbi Shimon Bar Yochai had 24 answers. So double trouble. So it was because of the cave, that's what led him to this. Ideas over here like this. Because of the afflictions that he went through and the toiling that Rebbi Shimon Bar Yochai did in the cave, that's why he merited Torah. That's the idea over here. You know why? What's the first statement of Rebbi Shimon Bar Yochai in Shas? It's a Gemara in Brachos on Hey Amid Aleph. Tana Rebbi Shimon Ben Yochai Oimer Shalosh Matanos Tovos Noson HaKadosh Baruch Hu Yisrael. There were 3 gifts that Hashem gave the Jewish people. The Kulam Lo Ynosnu El Yidei Yisur. And all of the gifts, they were only given through what? Through afflictions. What are they? Torah. Torah and easy. You got
Torah, Eretz
Yisrael, and Olam Haba. Next world, very good. So you see that what Rabbi Pinchas Ben Yair, he could talk the talk because he went through it. He went through the difficulty to learn the Torah HaKadosh. He fulfilled it. We see that Torah is a gift, but it only comes through difficulty. A person has to toil a lot. It also says in Avos in the 6th parak, Kachi darcha shel Torah chai sartichi b'Torah ta'amel. You got to toil in it. It's difficult. And one of the 48 ways to acquire the Torah is what? Kabbalas HaYisur, and accepting upon oneself the difficulties. That's the idea. That's what he's saying. No, it's because of all of that pain in the cave. That's what led to this. Because of all the cracks in my body. That's what led to this. That's the idea over here. We say in the Pismon, one of the songs, that one. So one of the lines over there is, Bar Yochai, Moshev Toiv Yashavta, you sat well. Yoim Nasosa, Yoim Asher Barachte, talking about the day that he ran away, he fled. Bimarois Surim Sha'amadato, you stood in the caves. Sham Kanisa Hoidecha V'Hadrecha, over there you acquired your splendor, your glory. What's going on over here? The question is like this. Why did Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai only mention to Pinchas Ben Yair these afflictions over here? He didn't answer. Shezachal is alusham b'harbi ma'ilus u'madrigos asumos. What's the idea over here? What's the deeper idea behind all of this? So the idea is like this. Aron Kotler explains that the worst catastrophe that could happen is Shichas HaTorah. Shichas HaTorah, hiya oson hayoyser chomer l'klal Yisrael. When Torah is forgotten, that is the worst calamity, catastrophe that can happen to the Jewish people. Yoyser mikol hachorbanos v'agaluya. So even worse than destructions and all of the exiles. Pasuk says in Devarim, in Dalates, Hishamar l'cha v'shamar nafshecha melipin tishcha chesed Devarim. We're warned to be careful not to forget. So we see from over here how bad it is to forget something from our learning. Let's discuss more in depth. So we see forgetting the Torah is a terrible situation over here. Because if we don't have Torah, Klal Yisrael bli Torah kemesim him chashuvim. It's like we're dead. Really? What's the source of that? Rambam. Explicit Rambam in Hilchos Rosayach v'Shmiras HaNefesh Perek Zayin Halacha Aleph. V'chayi bali chachmo ma'vaksheh beloy Talmud kemisa chashuvim. The life of a Talmud Chacham, of a scholar, and those who seek Torah and mitzvahs without learning, it's like their death. It's like death, literally. That's why the Gemara in Makos says, Talmud shagolo magalin Rebbi. If a student goes into the city of refuge in exile because he killed accidentally, his Rebbe comes with him. Why? The Gemara over there says, Shenemar v'chai, you shall live. Ovid lei mili d'chiyusa. You have to cause him to live. That's part of his life. That's why we spoke out in the recordings on the video that went up on Pirkei Avos and the Perek Aleph Mishnah Vav, Kanela Chaver, Rashi in the first explanation explains that a chaver is referring to friends. Different explanations how to explain Rashi. We discussed it at length over there. We went on massive discussion on Svarim and how important it is to have Svarim in the house. And over there we quoted the Nitzivin Shailus and Chuvas Meishav Dover who said, Talmud Chacham Shagalom Magalin Svarim Imo. The Talmud Chacham goes to the exile, the city of refuge, all of his Svarim have to come with him because that's his life. Got to bring all of them. That's the idea. Rebbi Shagalam, Magavin, Talmid Avimo, Magalin, Yeshiva Soimo. You got to bring it all with him. When the rabbi goes to go, bring the whole yeshiva with him. That's his life. That's the idea. He needs it. He needs it in order to live, literally. So we see that forgetfulness of Torah is terrible. However, the midah toiva is meruba, the midah understanding of the Torah, comprehending it, is even greater, because that is the main purpose of our life. Any toisefes havana ba'amchi chochmas Torah, any additional understanding of the depth of the Torah that we get, is toisefes chayim mamish. We get more life. I was like saying the story of. Remember one summer, someone came up to me in the middle of the summer and he noticed I was in the base medrash all day. I didn't leave. Just take a break. It's very nice, man. Get a life. This is life. We just learned more Torah, more life. Marba Torah, marba chayim. Second parak Shevuos. The more Torah a person has, the more life they have. We see any additional understanding of Torah is more life. So therefore, even though, so this is the question. Why did Rebbi Shimon Bar Yochai just mention? Why is it just mention? Oh, he went up in Torah. Why doesn't he talk about his midos? Yeah, his midos are very important. He improved tremendously, but the main way that he grew is for understanding of the Torah. That's the idea over here. That's what it's about. All of those answers that now he's able to come back with. So now we could tie it back in and explain the Lag Baomer over here. It's a happy time. Why? Aruch Hashulchan says. Shimon Bar Yochai came out of the cave. Besides for the fact that we're rejoicing because he passed away on that day, and now we're able to comprehend the Torah more and get his Torah more, this is also the day when Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai had a completeness in his personal Torah. If Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai would have never learned Torah like that and grown to the levels that he grew, which we can't even fathom and comprehend what those levels are, by the way. We could talk about it and say he was incredibly high level, but Lamaisa words can't even describe it, what type of level he was on. So that's when he came out of the cave. That was the culmination. When he came out of the cave over there. That was the grand finale. That's what we're rejoicing about. Like when you make a siyum, you completed something, you completed a masechta, seder, mishayos, whatever it is. You make a siyum because you completed something. That's what happened over here. It's a completion, so to say. Not that he was just saved and now the coast is clear, he could come out. No, it's because he achieved such high levels. That's why we have a tremendous simcha over here. It's a very, very happy time for all future generations. Ties it into another pismon as well. This idea ties it into another idea. We discussed in another shir that was put up. In another pismon, in another part of that pismon, we say Nasa Adam Nemar Bavarech. Nasa Adam, becoming a person, and that statement, it's explained, is referred to Rebbi Shimon Bar Yochai. The question is, why him? In the beginning of Bereshis, when we say Nasa Adam, it refers to mankind. So there's a whole other Torah and a whole other piece. The Aruch Hashulchan, Siman Taf Pei Tesach Sfiras Omar Os Aleph says, Ein Adam Magil L'Madrigas Adam Ma'al Bechinos HaBehema Shaloi Ela Be'emso Satorah Kadosh. HaKadosh Baruch Hu Siva Lahavi Korbanos B'Techilas Aminim Ha'omer Sa'irim B'Seif Machitim. In the beginning of when we count Sfiras Ha'omer, we're bringing the korban, and it's made out of barley. At the end of Sfira, we bring the Shesei Halechem, which is out of chitin, that's made out of wheat. What's the deeper idea over here? Barley is animal food. Wheat is human food. In the beginning, we're like animals. When we came out of Egypt originally, we were like animals, so to say. We didn't have Torah, we didn't have the proper midos, proper characteristic traits. This teaches us that without Torah, we're like animals without the Torah. That's the idea over here. But then once we start getting with the Torah, we become an Adam, we become a person. So Yitzchak Heitzig says, harsh l'shyness. We see that it's through the Torah. That's the idea. That's how we're able to grow. That's how we're able to come up and really be called an animal. And who did that better than Rebbi Shimon Bar Yochai? That was the whole piece over there, how he completely forgot about all the physicalities of this world. It just didn't matter over here. Carobs is very difficult to survive off of carobs, and he still did it. There's different levels of Adam, what it means to be a person. Rebbi Shimon Bar Yochai, he reached the highest. That's the idea. That's why Nasa Adam is specifically referring to Rebbi Shimon Bar Yochai. The Torah says, that Lag Baomer and Purim are always on the same day. What's a deeper explanation of this? Purim, the Gemara in Shabbos, Pesach and Shevuos says, it's when we willingly accepted the Torah. So it was like a new Maimed Har Sinai, a new Kabbalah Torah. It was the time when we received the Torah. Lag Baomer also a time when we received the Torah. That's why they're always on the same day. One explanation. It's a deeper idea over here. We see how incumbent it is upon us to be careful to learn and to grow during this time, and it's an auspicious time, etc. That's basically the sum up of this idea over here. That's the first piece. With the remaining minutes that we have, just summarize all of the other pieces, which there are already full videos that are put out on it. Maimer Yudzayin says that what happened over here? What are we rejoicing about in Lag Baomer? The Pri Chadash's question. You're all dead. How are the 5 new students? How are they helping over here? How does that work? So the idea is that Tu B'Av, there was never a greater happy time. Tu B'Av. Why? Because they stopped dying, all the people in the midbar. We understand over there because there are more people dying, they stop. Well, then why over here is it a happiness? So it's the same exact idea. Purim and Lag Baomer are always on the same day. Why? Kabbalah Torah. That's basically what he discusses in Maimer Yud Zayin over here, and we willingly accepted the oral Torah upon ourselves based on also the Chasam Sofer completely. And this is when the new Messiah started, the new people during this time, Rebbi Akiva. That's a connection between the two. That was the idea over here when he started teaching them. And that was when the Torah could get transferred, Kabbalah Torah. Another reason is that this is when they had unity. We have to be like one in order to receive the Torah, one body. So before they didn't have the unity because they didn't give each other honor. The 33rd way to acquire the Torah is Oev Esabrios, loving people, which falls out on Lag Baomer. That's the idea over here. So we see Lag Baomer as a special time to love other people. What is Purim about? Purim, we said there's a connection between Purim and Lag Baomer. One of the things about Purim is what did Haman say? I'm a fuzar mafura, that they're separate people. Purim is all about what? Unity. Achdus, Mishloach Manos. What do? We send gifts to one each other. According to the Manos Halevi, we send gifts to one each other. Why? He says to be mar bereis, increase friendship. That's why, according to the Chasam Sofer, if you sent a gift to someone, he rejected it, you still fulfill your obligation according to the Manos Halevi, because he saw that you tried to increase your friendship according to the Chumas Hadesh and the Shal Shuvas Kuf Yud Aleph, you would not be good because you need it for Suda, right? Mishnah Berurah and Siman Tafrei Shadiyeh holds it's not so simple in that case because we hold like both of those opinions. But the idea is that according to the Manos Halevi, to increase friendships, Matanos Evyonim, you give gifts to the poor, Suda, you have a meal on Purim, you invite other people, you get everyone together, unity, that's what it's all about. Purim. So too Lag Baomer. Lag Baomer is also about Purim. It's all about unity, because it's a new time when we accepted the Torah, and now all the students, now they all get along together. That's another connection between the two. Rebbi Akiva, who was Rebbi Akiva? Rebbi Akiva was the person who said, loving your friend like yourself, that's a very important rule in the Torah. The Yerushalmi Nedarim and Perek Tes, Halacha Dalet. Same exact idea. It's all about the unity. It's all about coming together. Lag Baomer, that's another reason between the connection of Purim and Lag Baomer, because it's all about unity. That's the idea over here. And that's the happiness. Because they had that unity, they were able to transfer the Torah. Another tweak in that. Next idea, this is the idea how Rebbi Shimon Bar Yochai was the biggest Adam, because he elevated himself so much. He uplifted himself from all the physicalities over here. That's why we say that Nasa Adam is referring to him. So it's something that we need to think about as well. End of that piece brings a very interesting idea how the Chassam Sofer discusses why there's a custom to burn clothing on Lag Baomer and the bonfire in Eretz Yisrael. Could be to commemorate that Rebbi Shimon Bar Yochai was like Adam Harishon before he sinned, completely high level. And before they sinned, they didn't have clothing. So therefore, that's with the sand. We burn clothing to symbolize that. Deep idea. This is someone who's at an incredibly high level. Like I said, we can't even comprehend the level. And then lastly, is that the big chizuk of Rebbi Akiva is that, there's a lot of impressive ideas, concepts of hashkafas to learn from Rebbi Akiva, but perhaps one of the most impressive is after 24,000 students died, he was no younger than 64 years old. You would say he's going to retire. He had a tremendous amount of wealth, and he just kept going. And he didn't give up. And he taught 5 new Talmidim. Where did he get that strength from? He got that from the beginning of his life. He was 40 when he started learning Torah. But he saw the water penetrating, that made a hole in the rock. And Ovos Rabbi Nosson, Parak Vav, he said, if water, something soft, is able to penetrate something hard, a rock, then surely something hard, the Torah, which is Kashka Barzel, hard like iron, like metal, could penetrate my heart, which is soft. And he didn't give up, and he always had strength to do it. He never giving up. No yish. He never gave up. And he went strong, and he learned for 24 years. And we discussed also on the Rebbi Akiva playlist what fueled Rebbi Akiva specifically from that event to learn 24 years straight. We discussed that. So where did he get the strength from? So he got that from there. That was in it. That was part of him. The idea to never give up. And then he quotes the Yalkut Ma'am Loez over here, who says that it's the same idea with Rebbi Akiva, and then points something out fascinating with Boaz. Boaz basically, Ivson, he had 60 children, 30 boys, 30 girls in his life. He lived around 300-400. You can watch the whole thing for all the details. And basically, they all died during his life. And he didn't give up. When he was older age, he did not give up. And because he didn't give up, he married Rus, and David HaMelech was conceived. He died on that night. So you see also from Boaz not giving up. You see what this is. Imagine if we wouldn't have David HaMelech. That's the idea over here. So this also we find many cases, persecutions, all forms of torture that other people try to do for us for no good reason. All these libels, all these things. And we never give up. After the Holocaust, we thought, oh, nothing, Torah, what's going to happen with it? We didn't give up. We kept fighting, and that's what happened. The Klosenberger Rebbe, he lost 10 children in that close. Didn't give up. Continue with the Hasidus. That's what we see from over here. So Lag Baomer is the victory over Yish, of not giving up. A lot of times people, they give up. They start something new. They start with a new Chavrusa, a new Limud. It's very fresh. It's very exciting in the beginning, but then they give up. That's the chizuk of Rebbi Akiva. So that basically is a summary of pretty much all of the ideas of Lag Baomer all lined up. You really have everything together. That's why it's such a tremendous simcha, and very few people merit properly understanding what Lag Baomer is about. This is what we just discussed in the last, 35 minutes? Yeah, 35 minutes, almost 40 minutes. This is what we just discussed this is it. I mean, this is what Lag Baomer is about. We should go in with the proper understanding, utilize Lag Baomer, and so that should cause us to grow. Mitzvah Hashem.
Amen.
Amen. Mitzvah Hashem will continue tomorrow.
Yeah. How does everybody justify all the music and everything on night or whatever? We mix us in Yom Kippur. It's the whole reason why we do Lag Baomer. The reason why we celebrate Lag Baomer is because the Rama says, that you can start taking haircuts and everything in the morning because it makes us Yom Kippur.
Right, correct. Right.
What's the question?
Weddings now, and
Yeah.
What's the question?
Another very interesting question is, it says in the Gemara that the Talmidim Rebbi Akiva died in Pesach Shevuos, from Pesach till Shavuos. But the Shulchan Aruch says that they stopped dying on Lag Baomer. But the Gemara says they died till Shavuos.
So is there like a timeout on Lag Baomer?
It seems like they stopped. So it's questionable if you hold the second half of Surah, number one, and it's questionable because how you arguing on Gemara. Yeah. So when we learn Simon Tough Side begin next year. That's why I said last year, I said, remind me this year, we got to learn Taf Sadi Gimel. I said, we're doing so good with Shabbos.
All right, so I have to write it down.
Yeah, no, we really need to do Taf Sadi Gimel next year.
Okay.
We really got to do it next year. So next year we're gonna do it. Get it properly. All right. Have a wonderful day.